It's time to focus on South Texas. It's a hot topic lately, and we're clearing the air on the cannabis laws in Texas, plus a fashion show that benefits the San Antonio Food Bank. Wake up with Focus. Good morning. Welcome to Focus on South Texas. I'm Melissa Vega. It's a hot topic of late, but also causing some confusion. What are the laws when it comes to cannabis? Depending on what city you are in or how much you have, could mean facing a $2,000 fine, up to 180 days in jail, and a criminal record. Here to clear the air is Robert Gebbia and Joe Holscher of Holscher Gebbia Cepeda PLLC, and from UT Health is Dr. Brett Ginsburg, Associate Professor in the Department of Psychiatry. Hello and welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Well, first things first, what is the difference between cannabis, hemp, and CBD within the realm of Texas law? What are the legalities here in Texas?
You want that one?
I think for the difference, we should start with the doctor.
Well, chemically they're different. The THC is the primary psychoactive ingredient in cannabis. That's what people tend to think of when they think of what makes people high, how people feel when they smoke marijuana, raw marijuana. CBD is another chemical that's found in the plant, and it doesn't create that effect, that psychoactive effect in the same way CBD does. These two are just two of hundreds of chemicals that this plant produces, and we're only just starting to understand what each of these different molecules that this plant produces does and can do. But of course, those are the two most highly enriched in the plant, and so they're the ones that people have focused on to date.
And when it comes to the law surrounding, what does this mean?
So hemp is legal in Texas, industrial hemp, which typically has little or no THC and can have very low quantities of CBD or other psychoactive chemicals. Unfortunately, in Texas right now, the law is a little bit vague, and so is our justice system in terms of the resources we have to test things. So in one big case, a tractor trailer full of industrial hemp was stopped, seized, and unfortunately destroyed by the authorities, even though it later turned out to be completely legal. The charges were dismissed, and now the discussion is over how much is the state of Texas going to pay for the approximately $1.5 million worth of hemp that they inadvertently destroyed. So even within the law, there's a big gray area in Texas. Generally, hemp is legal, CBD is legal. Anything that contains THC may be legal if the amount of THC is low enough and the amount of CBD is high enough. But because our forensic labs aren't equipped to give us good answers to those ratios and those numbers, right now it's a little bit of a free-for-all in Texas. You're using all of those things at your own risk.
33 states have medical use of marijuana. Dr. Ginsburg, how does THC and CBD affect the adult brain, and what benefits do patients feel from medical use of marijuana?
THC is, as I said, the psychoactive component, and it acts at a specific spot in the brain. There are also places in the rest of the body that it also acts. And so for things that people use THC for, it's probably due to actions either in the brain or in the rest of the body at those sites. And some of the things that people use it for that have good clinical evidence for its effectiveness include sleep disorders, chronic pain, and appetite stimulation in situations where maybe someone's taking a chemotherapeutic that may cause them nausea and make it hard to eat. CBD, as I said, is not psychoactive. It acts at different places in the brain and body. And we still don't really know how exactly it works. But we do know that it is effective for treating some forms of epilepsy, particularly forms of epilepsy in children that aren't responsive to other current medications.
I'm sure you get a lot of questions in your law firm. Is Texas on track for cannabis legalization in the future? If so, what do you think that would look like, Robert?
On track, yes. Are we close? No. Amongst my friends, 20 years ago, I said 30 years. I still think we probably have about 10 to 15 years before we get to a real positive step forward for legalization of cannabis, marijuana, THC. I think the medicinal benefits are known nationwide, worldwide, and there's so many research studies out there that show the benefits of THC use, marijuana use, that I think legalization is inevitable in the state and at the federal level. As for when and what that looks like, yeah, I do think we're still about 10 to 15 years out, unfortunately. Texas, as we all know, is not a very progressive state, and we're even tracking behind some of the states that we would expect we would be in front of. States like, say, Oklahoma is more progressive than Texas right now in marijuana reform. And that does present a sad state of affairs for Texas, and I think it's time that the legislature, that Austin gets its act together and starts really moving the ball forward in a positive way.
Dr. Ginsberg, I also understand that there was something, the green rush, that people may not know about.
So there's, well, people certainly are aware if they drive around the city, an incredible proliferation of over-the-counter CBD retailers. And there's a lot of choices in the marketplace for consumers and not much guidance in terms of how to pick an appropriate product or even an effective product. And you know, this has all sort of happened before. A century ago or more, there were patent medicines that were made and promoted as cure-alls, particularly for tuberculosis. They were purported to contain THC. They were supposed to be imported from India. And when journalists went and did analyses of these products, they found that they really generally didn't contain any cannabis product whatsoever. They were marketed that way, they were sold that way, and so it leads to confusion for the consumer. Certainly we see that in the CBD space right now, with retailers selling products and purporting that they're effective at certain things and that they contain certain things or don't contain certain things, but it's left to the consumer to really be the judge of whether this is a good product or not.
Got it. And when it comes to the legalities, and if there are questions, it is always better to ask. Right, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have some providers who are doing good analysis. They have certificates of analysis from third-party labs. They know what they're selling. We have a lot of clients right now who want to get into the CBD space, and they're just trying to look to franchise from somebody to sell a product, and they don't know what they're selling. So right now, consumers need to be asking, but so do the people who want to get into that space, because they're all going to get sued if they don't take the steps to make sure that their products are safe and as represented in their marketing.
And I think if I could just add one thing to that, it threatens really, the threat is really greater than you might originally think, because if people start using these products and either A, they're not effective when they expect that they should be, or even worse, they're harmful because of the way the products are manufactured, it could really derail a lot of important medical and scientific research at a higher level, which might reveal uses that we don't know about yet. But if people come to the conclusion that this is all just snake oil or is poisonous, they're going to, all of that will stop. And so there's some real danger there, I think.
That's dead right. That's the biggest threat to this emerging market right now, is that there are people out there who don't know what they're doing, and they run the risk of contaminating public opinion and the law through our publicly elected officials throughout the marketplace. And the litigation may not just be between consumers and people selling or producing. It may end up being between marijuana or CBD businesses that have now had their reputations damaged by the snake oil salesman.
Got it. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for your expertise on a very important issue here. Thank you so much. And still ahead, the San Antonio Food Bank is hosting an event where fashion meets compassion. We'll have a preview right after the break.